Some Australian schools have started using a new tertiary training mode that allows prospective teachers to skip attending a university. Instead, they're given a hands-on in-classroom experience as paid employees. With more, here's Dr. David Hastie, who's the Associate Dean of Alphacrucis College, which is involved in the program. David, hello, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
What's the involvement of the college and how does this program work?
Well, the current mode of training teachers is very much tertiary centred in that it's about a student going into a tertiary provider and, if you like, purchasing a retail degree. And the tertiary provider has say over who's going into the program and how they're trained and placed and so forth. There's very little reference to the end user, and that is schools who employ teachers. And so this model flips the model from a tertiary-centred model to a tertiary partnership with a group of schools. So it's not about cutting universities out at all. It's actually about shifting the focus from tertiary student to tertiary schools.
Yeah. Are universities involved at all in it, though?
Universities in Australia are involved in various elements of this approach. For example, the University of Melbourne Graduate School conducts what it's called the clinical practice model, and that's 2 days in schools and 2 days at the campus. The difference with the Alphacrucis model that is being piloted in the Hunter is that the students are in the schools permanently, and because it runs at a certain scale, they actually don't need to leave the campus of their schools to learn the course.
Do they end up with an education degree? Though?
Absolutely.
They do.
Absolutely. So the school itself becomes a learning centre of the tertiary provider.
So why was it thought necessary to offer this alternative path to becoming a teacher?
Well, that's a good question, Ros. There's a lot of problems, and it's widely recognised, with what we call classroom readiness. So the standard of teachers coming out and their capacity to go straight into a classroom. And so there's been a lot of inquiries, a lot of fire and heat around how should we train teachers. There's also a lot of wastage through what we call attrition and churn. So 30% of students who start a teaching degree, which is subsidised by the Commonwealth Government, up to 2/3, will actually drop out of the teaching degree. Then you have 50% actually after 5 years will leave the teaching profession. And so we're actually looking at an annual cost to the taxpayer in Commonwealth-supported places of well over $400 million.
Universities have said they've warned that a similar model in the UK was not successful, and they say it's not an efficient program, and also, as you've pointed out, it costs students more.
The cost to the students is slightly more, but the cost to the country is considerably less.
What about the inefficient argument then?
Well, the UK model, it's interesting, it's an excellent observation. The UK has several different versions of school-centred models. The ones that don't work well are the ones that remove tertiary and remove unions. There's something of an ideological foundation for doing that under the Cameron government in 2010. That's not what this model is about at all. We take the best of British and leave the worst. It's about strong partnerships between tertiary and between schools, between governments, state and Commonwealth, between teachers' unions and between parents and students.
What are the entry requirements to get onto this program? Are they lower than they'd be if a student wanted to go via a university in the more traditional way?
I would say they're considerably higher in that students need to be interviewed to go into the program, and they come because students come from the region that they're being trained in and with the view for them working in the region. They actually need to come with a proven volunteerism. They actually need to come with, they come vouched for and known into the program. They have to meet all of the state government requirements. But there's also a very rigorous selection process where students in the cohorts who are going into the program are actually put into groups, given problems to solve, observed, and then actually put in front of a class and given a very short lesson to teach. There's no program into teacher training in this country or in the world that I know of that actually puts prospective students in front of a Year 4 class and asks them to teach.
David Hastie, thank you.
My pleasure.